NetsBoy, so let's hear what he has to say. His name is NetsBoy, he thinks the world is all over when the Nets just can't play. What up, Net fans? NetsBoy here, bringing your latest in your Brooklyn Nets news. Been a couple weeks since my last video, mostly because, let's be honest, well, there's a couple reasons. First of all, the Nets are such a nothing team right now. It's like not even worth really talking about too much of. And also, NetsBoy was kind of recovering from that disastrous performance by Seton Hall in the first round of the NCAA tournament. I mean, I take time to do a great video about them and how do they repay me, but with a just terrible, terrible game. But that's not the point. It is what it is. Put that in the back burner. Very disappointed in them, but whatever. So between that and the fact that the Nets haven't really been anything worth talking about either, I just kind of went through the last few weeks of saying, yeah, I'll get to another NetsBoy eventually. So here it is. My latest NetsBoy episode. The Nets have 5 games left in the regular season. They've just been pretty much sampling out new, younger players. Henry Sims has been on the team. Sean Kilpatrick, I think I talked about him last time. He has been phenomenal, and I think that he has probably been a very pleasant surprise that the Nets found. So he's somebody that I think the Nets might look at to keeping for the future. Rondé Hollis-Jefferson is back. He looks pretty good. Chris McCullough is playing now. So the young guys are finally playing. Markel Brown, Thomas Robinson. He had a good game against the Knicks the other night, even though the Nets lost. The Nets have lost, I think, 5-6 straight. I mean, look. Lopez is getting rest. Thaddeus Young got rest in the previous games. That's why they're losing. And actually, that's what we're going to talk about today. But if those two guys don't play, this Nets team's not going to win, which is why they're going to go 0-5 the remainder of the season, end up with 21-61 record. That's my prediction because I just simply do not see them winning another game without Lopez and Young playing. And as of yesterday, it was announced that the Nets are going to rest both Brook Lopez and Thaddeus Young for the remainder of the season, a decision that makes tons of sense. I know there's a little bit of a mixed reaction. Some Nets fans are like, come on, we can't allow the Celtics to get a top 3 pick. You know what? You got to worry about yourself. Worry about your team and your organization right now. Who cares where the Celtics go right now? I mean, I know you don't want to give them a top 3 pick, but at the same time, even if you get up to the 4th worst record, they still got a chance to get a top 3 pick. So why you know what I'm trying to say? It's not worth jeopardizing your 2 best players who you're going to try to either build around or trade over the offseason. So it makes tons of sense. Why risk either of them getting hurt with a serious injury, like a broken foot for Lopez or a torn ACL or something like that? Why not just rest the guys? And so that's what the Nets are doing moving forward. It's very smart. Lopez and Young both had great years. Lopez ended up averaging 20 and over 20 points and 7.8 rebounds, 1.7 blocks per game, shot 51%. Just a fantastic season. It's a shame it came with one of the worst performances his team has had since, their 12-win season, which he was a part of. I think his second year in the league or something like that. So it's a shame because he had great numbers. And Thaddeus Young, I think, ended up averaging 15 and 9 this year. So those two guys definitely proven that they're good players and that they need help. But the Nets are resting them. I think that's a smart move, like I said, and we'll see what happens moving forward. Some of the other Nets, though, that have been playing well, I know Bojan Bogdanovic had a crazy, 44-point performance, I think, the other night. That was a long time ago, but I haven't had a NetsBoy episode in a while. That was very impressive. That had me have a little bit more faith and respect in Bojan Bogdanovic. He's somebody I think should be on the team next year as well, which is really what these last few games are going to be. Tony Brown is just going to play a bunch of these scrubs and see, okay, who is worth keeping for next year and who is worth just getting rid of. And then I think Sean Marks is then going to go into free agency, try to get as many good players as he can, maybe a Mike Conley, maybe an Eric Gordon, maybe a Ryan Anderson, players who aren't the super premier names like Kevin Durant and so on and so forth, but good second tier players who can make a huge difference and maybe plug them in with some other guys that they're keeping. And I think that's what the goal is for next season as of right now. So going into that, they want to see what they've got from these players. And from watching them play, I think the Nets have a couple other guys other than Lopez and Young that I think will be on the team next year, or players that I would like to see. Bogdanovich is still one. He is definitely a rotational NBA player. I think he's still a kind of a sixth man. I think as long as he has the confidence, he could be a very good sixth man. So I really see him as a good player the Nets should keep. But better than him, Sean Kilpatrick, 100% should be on the Nets next season. This guy is incredible. His scoring ability is through the roof. He's really more of a true sixth man than Bogdanovich. Bogdanovich could probably start if you needed him to. And actually, I think he probably should start with this Nets team that they have. Moving forward next season, if they got like Mike Conley, they could start Bogdanovich as the 2 and Hollis-Jefferson as the 3. I don't know. I'm not going to go into next year, but Sean Kilpatrick is just great. I mean, he can shoot the 3 ball. He can slash to the basket. He has that weird little runner. The problem is he can't really do anything other than score, but he's an incredible scorer, and that's a great asset to have if you're a team trying to build a championship, to have a guy like him who can come off the bench and score, which he seems to be very good at. So he's really impressed. Hollis-Jefferson, he's another guy I feel will definitely be there next year. I mean, obviously, his defense is just fantastic. When the Nets beat the Cavs, which I think was their last win, they beat I think the Pacers again after that, or some team, I don't even remember. But they won another game after that. He was great guarding LeBron James, and I mean, he's going to be a great player. I mean, not great, a good player. And obviously, he's going to be probably starting, as long as he stays healthy, all of next year probably. And so he's a player I like to see. So far we got Bogdanovich, Kilpatrick, and Hollis-Jefferson. I want all those guys to come back with Young and Lopez next season. But then we go beyond those guys. Markel Brown definitely deserves to be on the roster next season, be brought back. He's proven that he is a rotational player. I don't know if I can safely say he should be like a starter or coming off the bench, but he should be on the roster. And he could be a rotational player depending on who you got. But he's definitely a roster caliber player and a good enough player where I would definitely want to keep him on my team if I'm the Nets, not looking to get rid of him. And same thing with Chris McCullough, because he's still basically raw young talent that you're not going to get rid of, and he has a high ceiling. So he's someone else I'd bring back. So Markel Brown, Chris McCullough, Bojan Bogdanovic, and Hollis-Jefferson, obviously on top of Lopez and Young and Sean Kilpatrick. So those are 7 players that the Nets should definitely take back next year so far. Moving forward from that, maybe Shane Larkin. I mean, I'm going to be honest. Shane Larkin has played well at times, but I think you see why he's been a bit of a journeyman in his first few years in the league. His inconsistencies is just a little too much. Like, I like Larkin. I think he should be brought back and put on the roster, kind of like the way Markel Brown is, as like an emergency player, like an 11th or 12th man, or this third string point guard type player, a guy who can come in and play minutes if somebody gets hurt in the rotation. I think that's the role for Larkin, and probably the role for Markel Brown, because they're both guys who aren't really good enough to maybe be in the rotation, but are good enough to plug in there if an injury were to happen. So I'd like to see Larkin come back as well. So now we got 8 players: Brook Lopez, Thaddeus Young, Markel Brown, Bojan Bogdanovic, Shane Larkin, Chris McCullough, Hollis-Jefferson, and Sean Kilpatrick. 8 players that I think the Nets should definitely bring back next year. Everyone else, you can go. Thomas Robinson is on the cusp. He kind of fits in that Shane Larkin, Markel Brown situation as third string players who could produce, but these other guys, Henry Sims and Willie Reed and Donald Sloan, those guys can just go. They're completely irrelevant. But so I know it's interesting because the Nets only have 21 wins and they're a pretty bad team. Yet I basically just said that 8 of their players should come back. I really do believe that. 8 of their players should come back. Sergei Karasev, he can go, but if you think about this team, if you brought back those 8 players and you plugged them into those specific roles, then, you plug in the rest of the players through free agency, I think the Nets team could be pretty good. So, moving forward, we'll continue to see how this Nets team plays the next 5 games, see how other players develop. I'm really more interested in seeing Chris McCullough and Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, because those are the guys who can get better. I don't care about Henry Sims. I might have said Chris Sims earlier, by the way. I don't even know. Henry Sims. I don't care about him. I don't care about Willie Reed. I don't care about Donald Sloan. I don't care about Karasev. I don't care about even Bogdanovich too much. I care about seeing what Chris McCullough and Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, what they look like moving forward these last 5 games. Will they develop more of their game moving forward? So we'll see what happens with those guys. And I got about 2 more NetsBoy episodes, I think, left that I'm going to do. I'm going to have my season wrap-up. And then I think I'm going to conclude with a video about all the reasons why you got to still have faith if you're a Nets fan. So I think I got 2 more videos left in me, so keep your eyes open for the next NetsBoy. The next one will probably come after season's end, and I'll have an end of the season wrap-up. And then, like I said, we'll see if I'll probably do a top 5 reasons to believe in the Nets or something like that, just to end on a very optimistic and positive note. So, as moving forward, I'm predicting 5 losses without Lopez and Young. Whatever. So, let's see what happens. And until the next NetsBoy, we'll see what happens with this very interesting looking team. So, until then, this is NetsBoy. Just keep on keeping on. And signing off.